I'm Imant Tillers and I'm standing in front of my painting, The 9 Shots, which was painted in 1985. This painting was very controversial at the time it was produced because I was working from reproductions and quotation, which has been part of my practice since the 70s really. And I put together 2 images. An image by German artist Georg Baselitz from his 1960s series Ein neuer Typ, with elements from Michael Nelson Jagamara painting, which was called 5 Dreamings. One of the things that attracted me to this series of works actually by Baselitz, they were done in the mid-1960s, in a period where figuration in art was really not on. It was sort of minimalism in America. It had been abstract painting in Europe, and Baselitz returned to the figure. It's partly why he's so important now. The subjects too were interesting because he painted defeated German soldiers. These artists like Kiefer and Baselitz and Polka too, they dared to address the recent history of Germany, and their work wasn't very popular when it first appeared because people didn't want to be reminded of what had happened. One of the paradoxes for me and in my life is that, I'm the child of migrants. They're actually refugees affected by World War II quite deeply. And so I've ended up in Australia as someone of Latvian heritage. The reason this painting caused a controversy was because there was uncertainty around how one should treat Aboriginal art, and you could quote from contemporary art but not Aboriginal art because it was supposed to have special significance. So there's quite a backlash to this work when it was first seen, and in fact the only reason the debate happened in Australia was because in the 1986 Sydney Biennale I put this image, The 9 Shots, in the catalogue even though I didn't show the work in the Biennale, and by coincidence the next entry was Michael Nelson Jagamara. His image was the 5 Dreamings, so they were on subsequent pages, which is how anyone was alerted to the issue of me borrowing from him. I met Michael Nelson at the time, and what was lacking was me seeking permission from Michael Nelson to use his image. But these protocols have evolved over time. Since about 2000, I've been collaborating with Michael Nelson. We've done about 15 or 16 collaborative works over the last 15 years, including a work called Fatherland, where Michael Nelson's painted the 5 Dreamings as part of that work. So here you can see Michael Nelson's snake, quite a big snake, coming up to the figure's shoulder. And these are the roundels. They're only partial in some places, and you can see they're almost complete elsewhere. So there are 9 of those. Also, I just point out a couple of other elements in this painting, which are from Baselitz. So the figure is actually standing in front of a tree, but it kind of almost looks like he's kind of crucified. And then also here there's a flag, like a red flag, but it's, the flag of the defeated soldier, I guess. In a sense too, my father was actually defeated too, because he was a, 18-year-old soldier under the German occupation. So it could kind of be a portrait of him as well. So the painting is called The 9 Shots, and one of my first obsessions as an artist became very interested in Marcel Duchamp. I actually studied the large glass in great detail and the works of Duchamp, and they really informed my early practice. And the 9 shots are an element in the large glass. Duchamp had fired a matchstick at a target behind the glass 9 times, and where it hit, he drilled holes, so it's a reference to the large glass. This was one of the first works where I used oil stick. When I returned to painting, as it were, I thought I'd start at ground zero. So I started with finger painting, like a child's finger painting, and just in a very limited number of colours. And the thing about oil stick was that it was, it's not really painting with a brush, but painting with a crayon. So it was kind of the next step after finger painting. And it's on 91 canvas boards, and I started using canvas boards in the early 80s. I started counting the panels. So I started with panel number 1, and this is quite early on in the sequence, and it's cumulative. So now I'm up to kind of over 90,000. I came up with the idea of canvas boards because being from Australia, so far away, with no infrastructure to help you move paintings from Australia internationally, we'll overcome this problem. A painting like this collapses into a little box. I pretty much use canvas boards exclusively to make these composite paintings. So I've ended up in Australia as someone of Latvian heritage. And here I am collaborating with an Aboriginal artist who's a traditional Warlpiri based in Papunya. And I've thought quite a bit about what a strange thing this is, and who could have predicted this, say in 1900. Someone of Latvian origins would be doing a series of works with a traditional Aboriginal man from Central Australia. I've always been in two minds. I have a split personality because fundamentally Australian, and yet there's another part of me that is from somewhere else. And I really swing between these two poles all the time. So in a work like this, the 9 shots, those two poles have sort of come together.